Number 10. Shooting the boss. On a Friday afternoon in August 2019, his roommates discovered Leonard John Ruffer dead inside of their home in Houston, Texas. According to the Harris County deputies, an employee he had recently fired shot and killed Leonard. Witnesses told police that Leonard owned his very own floor installation business. And earlier that day, financial circumstances had forced him to let go of one of his employees. That employee was 22-year-old Jatravius Williams. Police immediately went out and brought Mr. Williams in for questioning. They discovered right away that the suspect had a history of criminal mischief. He was already out on a bond for an unrelated aggravated assault case, and the authorities knew him to carry a pistol. He had initially agreed to be questioned by the police, but changed his mind on his way to the police station. He pulled out a gun and went inside a local gas station, where he had a 90-minute standoff with the Houston deputies. He finally surrendered, and police have since charged him with Leonard's murder. Number 9. Terrifying Orlando shooting. In 2017, Army veteran John Robert Newman Jr. shot and killed Kevin Clark. Kevin was one of 5 of John's victims that day. John had recently lost his job, and this did not thrill him. He returned to the offices of Fiamma Incorporated, an RV awning company, first thing in the morning on a Monday. It was the time he knew everyone would be there. John barged into the office where he used to work, shot and killed all his former co-workers, and that was as far as he ever made it. He had lost his job, and it had devastated him enough that he didn't mind losing his own life, or taking the lives of his former colleagues. Kevin Clark, at the time of his tragic passing, was raising 2 children alone. His life had already been full of hardship, starting when his wife died back in 2010. Now his teenage kids, one of them a cheerleader and the other a football star, are orphans with nobody to look after them. John killed not only Kevin, he tore his family apart. The same goes for John's other 4 victims: Robert Snyder, 69, Brenda Montanez Crespo, 44, Jeffrey Roberts, 57, Kevin Lawson, 46. They may have been his targets, but it was their families who also ultimately paid the price. Number 8. Death at the mall. At an outlet mall in Orlando, someone shot and killed another person on a Monday night in February 2020. It was just after 8 p.m. at the Under Armour store, located inside Orlando International Premium Outlets. Management had fired a former employee of the retail store earlier that day, and unfortunately, he did not take it very well. He left the store, built himself up into a horrible rage, and then returned with a weapon. He walked in the door, strolled past eager shoppers, and shot his ex-co-worker. According to the Orlando Police Department, the victim was 37-year-old Eunice Marie Vasquez. The police identified the gunman as David Everett, 46. He had sent threatening emails to every employee he believed was responsible for him being fired. It was just that when he went back to the store, Eunice, his manager, was the perfect target. Many people dislike their managers, even if they are just trying to do their job. What made this scary was that Daniel fled the scene and eluded the police. And because of the emails that were sent out to the other employees, cops had to scramble to track those people down in case Daniel was going after them next. Luckily, he didn't kill anyone else. Police found Daniel about a week later. And when police found him, it was only because a jogger came across his grey Kia Sorento with Daniel still inside, dead of an apparent suicide. Number 7. A case of discrimination. A waitress was fired for not wearing a skirt. Her name is Erin Sandilands, and she was only 18 at the time of her unjust termination. She was told by her boss that she needed to wear a skirt and put on more makeup so she would be easy on the eyes for the customers. Her boss didn't exactly call her ugly, but it was pretty clear what he was getting at. Erin was upset, and she wasn't about to let it go. She took her ex-employer to court and won a discrimination suit in 2016. She won around $4,000 after the tribunal found her workplace had treated her with discrimination differently than if she were a man. Erin told newspapers after the landslide victory that she was overwhelmed and happy with the result, and that more women need to speak out about being discriminated against at work. Make no mistake, this was some hardcore discrimination. She had been a waitress at Cecchini's bistro in the small Scottish town of Ardrossan for just over 2 weeks when her male boss took her aside. He told her to put on a skirt and pretty up her face with makeup. When she refused, saying she looked perfectly presentable without showing her legs and putting chemicals on her face, he fired her. Not only did Erin win a minor victory for herself and women everywhere, but she also made a fool of her boss publicly. From that moment on, after the case swept through the quiet town, he was probably so humiliated and disliked by the population that his life became miserable. Number 6. Church on Sunday. Hotel management fired a woman because she didn't want to work on Sundays. Her name is Marie Jean Pierre, a woman in her 60s from Miami. She told her employer that she had to attend church on Sunday and that she needed the day off. In response, her employer said no, and then he let her go. Marie had been working as a dishwasher at the Conrad Hotel for 10 years. She started in 2006 and in 2015 notified her employer that, as a member of the Soldiers of Christ Church, she was going to need to take all future Sundays off. We don't know why she didn't request them sooner. After 10 years of washing dishes at the same place, you would think they would have treated Marie, if not as a valued employee, at least as a human being. Instead, her employer told Marie to take a hike. Then, when she didn't show up for work 6 Sundays in a row, they fired her. This turned around to bite the employer right on their rear end. She filed a lawsuit claiming the Conrad Hotel, managed by Hilton, violated the 1964 Civil Rights Act. This is the act that protects workers from discrimination based on national origin, race, religion, and sex. She won the case, and a federal jury ordered the hotel to pay her $21 million in damages, plus $35,000 in back wages, and $500,000 for emotional pain. Number 5. Harassed and fired. Kyle Reinhardt is currently suing his former boss over possibly the most obscene and unbelievable act of harassment you've ever heard of. Kyle claims his former boss, Kim Circa, attempted to seduce him in front of her twin sister and his girlfriend. And when Kyle, a veteran with the United States Air Force, refused her bizarre advance, she fired him. He was fired from his job, making over $325,000 a year at a consulting firm, despite his amazing performance, just for not hooking up with his boss. Kim has denied all the accusations against her, but this wasn't an isolated event. Kyle says that throughout his time working with the consulting firm, he had to put up with Kim's wildly inappropriate advances and what he described as a freewheeling drinking and sexual culture. He just wanted to do his job, but his boss wanted him to do something else. The suit is still ongoing in 2022, and we don't know yet if Kyle will win the settlement or if Kim will keep her job. Number 4. Fired from the sugar mill. The manager of a sugar mill company fired an elderly man in Florida from his job after 30 years of hard work. His name is Felix Cabrera, and he was 86 years old in 2021 when they fired him. After 3 decades of loyal work at the company, Felix was understandably angry. According to the police, he went into a violent rage first thing in the morning after he learned he was being fired. He tried to reason with his boss at the Sugarcane Growers Cooperative in Bella Glade, but his boss wasn't listening. He told Felix to clock out and never come back. What happened next was shocking. Felix, in his blind rage, pulled a gun out of his pocket and shot his boss several times, killing him on the spot. Somebody heard the gunshots and called the police immediately, and deputies arrived on the scene within minutes. There they found the victim dead near the entrance of the building, and Felix stalking about with his loaded weapon. The sheriff's office said that by their deputies arriving so quickly, apprehending Felix within minutes, they may have prevented him from going on a crazed shooting spree. It's terrible that one man ended up dead, and it was horrible for Felix that they fired him abruptly just because he was almost 90. Still, it was a good thing the cops showed up before the deranged ex-employee could do any more damage. They have charged him with first-degree murder, and he will probably live out the rest of his days in jail. Number 3. Stopping a kidnapping. Dylan Regan was a 32-year-old man from Portland, Oregon, who worked at the Home Depot. On July 3, 2017, Dylan posted his story on Facebook explaining how management had fired him for assisting the police in preventing a kidnapping. He was at work on May 12, 2017, when one of his co-workers said he saw a man attacking a woman in the parking lot. Regan ran out to see what was happening and heard a woman screaming. Some crazed lunatic was trying to abduct the woman's child right there in the parking lot. Dylan called the police, who then instructed the employee to follow the man but not touch him or engage with him. The police said to keep an eye open, see where he's going, and help them catch him before he gets away. This was the right thing to do. He single-handedly may have saved the child's life by helping the police track the kidnapper down. But after he returned to the store, his supervisor scolded him for leaving his post. 4 weeks after that, they fired him. This is despite the fact that he was a hero and that he had been working at that Home Depot store for 4 years already. After his Facebook post went viral, his situation blew up on national news. Home Depot immediately offered to reinstate his position at the company, as well as pay him for the time since he had been terminated. But really, they only did it once they started getting bad publicity. Number 2. Erasing data. Juliana Baril pled guilty in 2021 to 1 count of computer intrusion, a crime that could have her face up to 10 years in prison. According to the court filings, management fired Juliana from her part-time position at her credit union in New York in May of that same year. 2 days after they fired her, she sabotaged the credit union. Juliana remotely accessed the file server and deleted 3,500 directories, 20,000 files, and 21.3 gigabytes of data. The deleted data was extremely important, not just for her work, but for their customers. She deleted mortgage loan applications and sabotaged their shared network documents. It cost her employer around $10,000 to fix the damage. But some things that were lost, they just couldn't find again. The FBI agent involved in the case, Michael Driscoll, said Juliana may have thought she was getting back at her employer, but she was just harming the customers. And while she may have felt justified in what she did, she's probably going to be regretting her decision when she winds up in jail. This was a lose-lose situation for everyone, but more for Juliana. The bank will go on banking, but Juliana's life will never be the same. Number 1. Hired Thursday, dead by Sunday. A man in Florida was hired at his job on Thursday and fired on Sunday morning. 2 hours later, he tried to kill his boss. The ex-employee is Juan Lewis, a 23-year-old young man who started working at Bernarda Aluminium Products in August 2018. Management fired him a few days after he started working because his work ethic was questionable. He was throwing supplies and tools on the ground and just acting like he didn't care about the job. It was better for the employer to fire him right away than have to deal with such a negative attitude in the long run. And to be quite honest, his employer had been right to trust that feeling because Juan was clearly unpredictable. After they fired him, he sat outside and waited for his district supervisor for 2 hours. Once his boss had left work, Juan followed him and his girlfriend for over 1.5 miles in his vehicle. And as Juan followed, he hung out the window of his car and tried to shoot the man from behind. By the time Juan realized the cops were coming and that he needed to get out of there, he had already put bullets in the rear bumper, the door of the trunk, and the right rear tire of his boss's vehicle. He didn't hurt anybody in the incident, but but it was extremely close. Those bullets could have gone anywhere, into his boss's head or some poor person just walking down the street. Police later arrested Juan at his home and hauled him off to jail. Would you rather get fired for an outrageous reason and then win a settlement against your boss, or simply not get fired in the first place? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again for another great real-life video.